Our final guest today is Senator Ralph Smith, who represents the 22nd District, covering all of Botetourt County and the cities of Radford and Salem and parts of the counties of Montgomery and Roanoke. Senator Smith, welcome to the show.
Good to be back with you.
Good to see you.
Again.
It's a busy session, that's for sure.
Well, it continues.
Yeah,
yes, it does. This is my fourth session, and it seems it will never end.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be the short session, but it continues well into the spring.
That's right. Well, as a previous small business owner, I know you're very committed to that. And what were some of the key changes for our small businesses out of this session? Any one or two things you can speak to?
Well, what will help small businesses most is reining in government and giving them some freedom in what they do. Now, one example that helped make a better budget this year is in 2002, Governor Warner inserted, rather than call it a tax increase, a $40 fee to inspect kitchens to serve food. And this applied to all restaurants, but it also applied to just a daycare center. Ever how small it was, it had to get that. And it was a $40 fee. And it got raised, and Tim Kaine, in his last budget proposal, put it up to $285. That meant your daycare center, it may have had 6 kids there, had to pay $285 for a fee to operate that daycare center kitchen. This past budget, it got moved. It didn't go away totally, but it got moved back down to a reasonable $40.
That's good news. Good news. Yeah, definitely.
You are a frequent critic of the size and scope of government, especially how it's expanded over the years. Can you give us some insights on some areas where additional cuts could be made in the future?
Well, it's the hard things that when you look at the federal budget, it's some really hard things as to who is going to be taken care of and who is going to have to work on their own to pay their way. That's the question there. But there are many things, there are many barriers to entry provided, and that's whatever. I won't mention all the fields, but you can go get your license and then close the door, so make it very difficult for the next person to become licensed or enter and participate in that field. Some medical fields, that's obviously, they need a very thorough licensing process. But there are many businesses, there's no real reason for having a special license in addition to your regular business license for performing some of these activities.
You submitted legislation to have budget language posted online 72 hours before action's actually taken. Why don't you talk a little bit about that and what the response has been?
The 72-hour budget bill was probably got more news than most anything in the Assembly this year. This is something I had presented first 3 years ago after receiving the budget bill, which is 10 pages that thick, bound, 34 minutes before we voted whether this was a good bill or not. And my proposal is, once you finally it comes before the Senate to vote on it, that would be posted online for 72 hours. Now, this budget bill, no one person could read and analyze it in 72 hours. But the idea is, when it goes online, there will be many people looking, and someone will see hopefully every page of it. There was a lot of resistance to it. This is the first year that I got bipartisan support. A Republican moved it, a Democrat seconded that motion. It unfortunately didn't get out of the Senate Finance Committee, but it did get many more votes than it has in previous years. But one thing did change a little bit, and it was actually posted online, not minutes, but it's translated into a few hours before we voted. And it's another thing that there was an understanding that they would not insert in conference any additional language or spending if it had failed when it was presented to the full Senate.
Okay.
So the bill didn't pass, but it is getting some results.
Some momentum as well.
As well.
And some attention. That's good.
When we have to explain our expenditures, we just tend to spend less.
Mm-hmm.
Shifting gears a little bit now, the governor was able to push a sizable transportation package through the General Assembly this year. Can you comment briefly on that bill and give us some insight on where you see that debate going in the next few years?
Well, I supported the bill. My personal preference that it had been something less than the $4+ billion. I think maybe half of that would have been effective. My concern is inflationary pressures. Deflationary pressures have been on us because of low construction work. But we don't want to go through the roof. We want to continue to take advantage of that. That will provide for some very needed improvements in our area, specifically the Valley View Mall interchange completion there, Interstate 81, the widening and the climbing lanes in new places. It certainly will help us. Also, Exit 150 it was partially funded with the federal stimulus plan, but what we're able to do is move up the construction phases there and expand that somewhat because of this. So there was it was a lot of money to go into debt for on the one hand, but there are some good things coming about for our region as a result of it.
Absolutely. Well, redistricting is on everyone's mind, and currently under the redistricting plan, District 22 and 23 will merge together. What are your thoughts, future on politics, and what are your thoughts about that?
Well, it's still all of these people to be represented here, and it's not over yet. It's gone to the governor. He's committed to sending it back for improvements. Now, from the first bill presented to the last one that was passed before we recessed just last week, there were changes. So I'm confident there will be changes. Will there be a 22nd district in Southwest Virginia, or will it be in Northern Virginia? We don't know that, and we won't know it until we're through with that.
Well, it's good to see you. Thank you for being on the show.
Good to be here, and look forward to working with you in the future.
Great. I'm Kim Stanley.
And I'm Tori Williams.
And we'll see you next time on Politically Speaking.